Hey everybody, Mega Immune Mama here again on good old hump day. I've been sitting here thinking and I figured I'd just get on and ramble like I seem to do at times. But I was born in 1973 and I grew up in the 80s, which I think is probably one of the best eras ever. But anyway, I remember that when 4th of July come around, how excited people were. And, I come from a home that, I knew the Bible and, I still to this day, I talk to God. I have a relationship with God. Do I go to church? No, because they are filled with nut jobs just like MAGA Christian nationalists. I don't have that. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. But I do talk to God, right? So anyway, as far back as I can remember, and the first president that I remember ever was Carter. Jimmy Carter. What a good guy. But anyway, so I grew up and my parents never talked about politics and stuff like that. But we were proud to be an American. And when you said that you had American pride, that means that everybody walked around with their heads held high, with their chest buffed out, and you walk around acting all puffy and poofy because you're proud to be an American. And I remember good old family barbecues where we'd all get together at someone's house on a Sunday and have barbecues and adults doing what they do while, all of us kids ran around and we played in water and we drank from a water hose, like the good old days. And people flew American flags in their yards. It was common, and you would think, what is wrong with the family if they didn't have a flag in their yard? That's how proud people were. And since the age of 18, now mind you, I'm 52 now, so I've been able to vote a few elections. I have voted since it was the day that it was my God-given right that under the Constitution I was legal, that I was able to vote. I voted, and I have voted every election that I can since then. And I've always been one that would vote policy over the person. And back in the day when I first started, they had a political affiliation or whatever, and it was the working class. So I would go, and register as the working class, and I would vote both Republican and Democratic, right? And I took pride in that. And, you never worried about somebody in the background trying to cheat and all that stuff because everything was written down and documented. That's just what it was. Computers didn't come out until, the 90s? So, anyway, fireworks. In the town that I lived in upstate New York, people would come from all over the state to my little town, their fireworks show, because we put on the best fireworks around, right? And it was always the 15th of August. So you might have done a little sparklers and stuff on 4th of July, but the real show for the town that I grew up in was August 15th, and it didn't matter what day of the week it was, that's the day that we did fireworks. So everybody knew, there was never a question, and we had people near and far. Our town was alive, right? And it was mom and pop shops. And yeah, you had the rough crowds, but they were more or less the skateboarders with their hair longer than what, the uppity up people thought that they should have. But that was the rough crowd. And, you know, you had African American people. You had, like, in the town I lived in, there were just a lot of people. For a small town, like, different nationalities. A lot of Italian families. And it was just, I don't know, we didn't lock our doors at night. Sometimes we locked the screen door if we left the main door open. And a lot of times not, because you just, like, didn't worry about stuff like that. And, you know, my dad, he passed away in January, a week to the day before my birthday in January of 2018. And it was a surprise. But he was my stepdad. My parents married in 1980. And he went through Vietnam, young at that, during Vietnam. And I remember growing up, and he had like little quirks about himself. And, you know, things bothered him, but, you know, back in that time, people just didn't talk. You kind of ate your feelings or whatever. And so he had always suffered from PTSD. And later on, I feel like I want to cry. Later on in life, and I got older to understand, you know, he had bad PTSD. And towards the end of when he passed away, and he did pass away unexpectedly, he had a stomach flu for a week and got sepsis and died in his bedroom at my parents' house on January 16th, 2018. But towards the end of his life, like within the 5 years before he had passed away, I noticed that he would be a whole lot more humble to people. And yet my mom couldn't do right. And I always found myself telling him to step back in his place and, you know, think about who he's talking to, because she fed him and, you know, took care of the house and laundry and everything that a man thinks a woman should do, whatever, she did it. And after he had passed, my mom told me that he was always talking about taking his shotgun and going across the street from their house and blowing his brains out in the woods, because he could not escape the things that he had gone through. And I didn't know at the time that he was threatening this. I had no idea. I didn't know until after he had passed. And right before he had died, my mother, after so many years, 2017, had finally talked him into going through the VA and getting help. You know, when I grew up, you respected the military. And if you ever saw them, you know, even though you were a kid and didn't know your ass from a hole in the wall, you still tried to salute, whether it was a Benny Hill salute or whatever. We took pride in our military. And seeing what my dad went through, and all of my brothers have served every branch of the military, all my uncles, my male cousins, every one of them had served. And you know, my dad was going to finally get help, and he died 7 months later. And for Trump to go to Arlington and disrespect Arlington and everything that it stands for and all the heartbreak that it holds, to call military personnel suckers and losers when they sacrifice to protect somebody like him and all the other pedophiles on the Epstein list. My dad and all the members of my family that were men went and protected somebody like Trump to be able to have a playground in the United States. And I'll tell you something, MAGA, you have to have members of the United States military in your family. I mean, it doesn't discriminate. Well, now it does because Trump wants it to discriminate, but it never had. Your family served, and do you look at your family and call them suckers and losers? Probably not, and if you do, then you're every bit as deranged as what the orange turd that took the election from Kamala Harris is doing. You're no better than what he's doing. You're complicit. Because I'll tell you what, my dad died suffering years, decades after the Vietnam War, and that man did not die a sucker or a loser. But what he did die as was a hero to this country, for one. He died an honest working man. He died a husband, a father, a great-grandfather. He provided. And though he was tormented by his thoughts, he made it work and kept it to himself. And what little my mom knew until later in life, I couldn't even tell you because, you know, my mom was born in 48, my dad in 41. Sorry, that's honey. But, anyway, you know, think about everything that Trump has ever said, and it's either him doing it or him implementing the things that he's going to do. And everything that he has made MAGA believe is a lie. Fact check it. Because what he is doing to this country, a country that has the strongest military, once the strongest economy, we were number one on the global stage. Number one. And in 6 months, Trump has managed to skyrocket prices. Give his billionaire, he's like sold out different parts of the White House and what his billionaire friends can and cannot do. Putting that money into his pocket for them to have reign, so he's not even president. But everything that he has said when he was campaigning, oh, we're closer to World War III than what y'all think. He knew he was going to take us there or do his damnedest, and so far he's doing pretty good. Because now Iran keeps coming out and saying that they're going to kill him. I mean, seriously, people, wake up. Our veterans mean everything. And whether they are active, retired, deceased, it doesn't matter. They're the heroes. They're the ones that have kept and keep watch so we can try to sleep peaceful at night, right? And we have our elderly. And people nowadays look at our elderly as though they're a problem. And you know what? It's not them that is a problem. It's you that thinks that you are so privileged to think that an elderly person has no worth. Because you know what? While you're sitting there and you're running your fucking gums and you don't even know what you're talking about because your ass is occupying your head at the moment, you have no clue what you're talking about. You run in circles. Right? The elderly people have lived through a lot of different things, a lot of different generations and times changing, and you know how life is so different now than what it was back in their day. And in my time, we cherished our elderly because they were full of knowledge. And the stories that they would tell and the people that they were associated with when they were young. And, you know, they shared pieces of themselves that you can write down, but to hear it, crazy. And we look at black and white pictures, or at least I do. I have family black and white pictures. And then the song, You Should Have Seen It in Color. Dude, right on. And my grandfather told a lot of good stories. My dad told a lot of good stories. So, you know, we appreciated them. And then the disabled, we didn't mock. Never mocked a disabled person. We helped. We would hold doors if somebody in a wheelchair needed a push, because back then they didn't have electronic ones. You know, you had to push or have somebody push. You know, we would hold the door open, and if they couldn't get somewhere or reach something, you know, you just did it. You stepped in and you helped. And you would come across different people of all shapes and sizes and different colors. And, you know, it didn't matter. But you know what? Every interaction that I have ever had, I cherish. Because if we were all the same and we all thought alike and did the same things, how fucking boring would life be? Like, seriously, think about it. How boring would life be? And Trump has alienated us from our closest allies. He has made Putin and Putin's war with Ukraine a #1 priority. He is setting up deals in Saudi Arabia, and God only knows what part of our government he has sold off to them for those deals. He has made so many different grifts. Golden sneakers. A fucking Trump Bible. And he knows that there are people that are going to fight till the end for him. And those are the people that we can't reach. And one of the reasons why I do videos, and I'll tell you what, Angry Ginger, I became a follower. I followed him like early on, and I had been on YouTube for a while, you know, dabbling. And I started, he was like probably the first one that I subscribed to back in the day, long time ago, and he has gone way farther than I could ever hope to go on YouTube. So props to him, Angry Ginger. But anyway, it took me a long time to make a video. And the first one inched me closer to the second one. Till now, I think this one's going to make 126, and I never, ever, ever thought that I would come on and tell inner stuff about myself or my thoughts or cry on YouTube or whatever. But I'm a proud American, and I'm a grandmother that refuses to allow my granddaughter to grow up in the world of Trump. I will be damned, and until my dying breath, I am always going to make videos. Always. And I may be redundant at times about stuff, but this is stuff that needs to stay out there. And if he's manipulating all of the news channels that we have ever, you know, respected to bring us news, if Trump is manipulating them, doesn't that kind of ring a bell and remind you of Putin TV? He's trying to make it Trump TV. No. No. Our America is our America. I'm not really sure when it come up for grabs to where Trump decided, him and his billionaire friends, that, you know, they could just take over like we were just up for grabs giving it away. No. This is our America, not Trump's America. And all the MAGA says is, if you hate Trump, then we should leave the country. No, suckers. You're the suckers. You're the losers, because the USA is for the true blue, all-American, God-fearing, flag-loving, pledge allegiance to the flag is something we did proudly with our hands on our chest. No, this is our country. And if you're MAGA and you feel the way that Trump does, if he's a billionaire now, he can round up every one of you and take you to Saudi Arabia with him and make up his own fucking country. Then if you guys want to be under the thumb of a dictator, there you go. There you go. Take a one-way. Go to El Salvador, go wherever in the hell you want. But y'all need to quit telling true blue Americans that are fighting even for your dumbasses for freedom and democracy. Those words need not come out of your mouth, because the one that says it is the first one that needs to get the fuck out. Anyways, guys, sorry about a 20 going on 22 minute video. I got emotional and I'm really, really sorry, but until the next video, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.